Good evening, everyone. Guys, am I audible?
Yes, it's audible.
Yeah, thank you. So let us start the demo session for today's cybersecurity session. So before we start, myself, I'm Raghu. I've been working with Zoom technologies for the past 15 years. So my primary job involves in cybersecurity, performing network security audits, suggesting proper network security solutions to various of our clients. And then we also work with various law enforcement agencies in the digital forensics field there. So here, this particular will dive on cyber security concepts. So before we start with the discussion, I just wanted to check whether have you guys completed with your networking basics. So you can either unmute and respond, or you can type it in the chat window. And I hope you are all able to view my screen. In this particular course, cybersecurity, let us just in Microsoft and Cisco administration. So guys, can you help me with what exactly you do in your MCSC and CCNA sessions? SC. Is audio clear now? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, guys. So, can you help me with what did you do in your MCSC sessions? What did you learn there in the Microsoft administration? So you are working with servers, right? So you have seen how do you configure a server? How do you enable various services on this server? Like say, how do you enable your Active Directory, or maybe how do you configure web server, or maybe how do you configure your file sharing or FTP and all this? So am I correct? Did you learn how to configure an organization server in MCSE? Yes. So did you only discuss about servers, or did you also discuss about some client computers? Uh, yeah. So when we say uh, in your MCSE sessions, you are working with the server as well as the client system. And of course, when you do your practicals, you are also working with VMware, I guess, right? So you also have an idea about what is virtual mission, how do you configure these virtual missions and all. And that is obviously going to help you for our practicals in this session as well, right? So basically, as a administrator in your MCSE sessions, you were looking at how do we configure the server, how do we have our client systems, and then how do we connect our client systems and server, right? So you have done that, right? How do we connect our client computers to the server so that these client computers can access the resources on the server, and using the server you are also able to put up some restrictions, which user can access what kind of resource, which user will not have access to what kind of resource, right? So can I say the group of this server and all these client computers can be called as a domain of this organization? So assuming this server and client computers belongs to Zoom Technologies, can I call this as a domain of Zoom Technologies? The
Yes.
server and the client. Say maybe they may have multiple servers. Just for the sake of understanding the concept, I'm only considering one server and few clients, right? But maybe as an administrator, you may have to configure multiple servers for various activities and various requirements, right? So now assume you are an employee of, say, Zoom Technologies, and you have access to one of their LAN computer. So you are an employee and you have access to one of their LAN computer. Now, will you be able to access the website that is configured on the server? You are an employee of Zoom Technologies. You have access to one of their LAN computer, right? And you will be able to access the website that is configured on the server, right? So as long as you are in office, you are connected to that particular network, you will be able to access the website. Now let us say after you go back to your home, from your home, will you be able to access the same website? Say in the evening after you go back to your home, if you try to access the website, will it be possible? No, it's not possible, right? Why is it so? Why can't we access the website from home? So if you have to access the website from your home, right, you need to publish this website on internet, right? So in short, in simple terms, you have to ensure that your office network where the server and the website is available is connected to internet, and at the same time you should also be connected to internet from your home. So now let us say, using the knowledge whatever you have gained in your CCNA sessions, you have done the configuration of the router, right? You have taken some services from internet service provider like say Airtel or Vodafone or someone, right? And then you did all the configurations on this router, right? So now your office network is connected to internet, and of course in your home also you have access to internet, you have taken an internet connection, right? So once the office network and your home network both are connecting to internet, will it be possible for you to access the company's website from your home? Yes, it will be possible for you to access the website from your home, provided your home is connected to internet. That's your home network is connecting to internet, and also your office network wherever this server is available is also connected to internet. So now can I say, from your MCSE and CCNA knowledge, as an administrator, you will be able to design a network for an organization and also configure the servers and set up everything. So in your CCNA, you know how to connect your network to internet. how to configure the required devices. In your MCSC, you have learned how to set up your organization's network using server and all, apply some policies to restrict the user, how to enable the required services and all this. So based on your knowledge that you have gained through MCSC and CCNA as an administrator, you will be able to set up this organization's network. Is that true? Yes. So you're all capable of setting up an organization's network. Now assume, say Zoom Technologies wants to create a new domain, right? Now let's say Zoom Technologies, they already have an office in Hyderabad, and they are also planning to open another office, right? Say Zoom Technologies also wants to have another office, say somewhere in Dubai. As an administrator, right, you will be able to set up this new network in Dubai environment. But configuring this network, is it the only task of an administrator, or as an administrator you should also ensure that this particular network is protected? Because I'm very sure uh, configuring this network is not an easy task. It's time taking, and you'll have to put in a lot of your efforts in thinking how do we design the network, where do we implement it, what kind of policies do we need, right? So you are going to maybe you have to work for some days to set up the network, right? So after you set up the entire network, is it also the responsibility of an administrator to secure it, or will someone else do that? So guys, what do you say? Will it be the responsibility of an administrator to secure the network, or will someone else have to do that? So here when we speak about securing the network, right, that is also the responsibility of an administrator, right? So when we say administrator, right, not only configuring the network, right, whatever network that you have configured, you should also ensure that it is always functional, right? Whatever data you have or what all information is present on your network is safe and it is secure, right? So this is where you will be going with your cybersecurity training, right? So in your MCSC and CCNA, you have seen how to configure the servers, how to configure your client computers, how to join these client computers into your domain and all. And then in CCNA, you have seen how do you connect your office network or your local network to internet, what kind of devices you may have to require, what kind of configurations have to be done and all. So now we are moving to the next step. After designing the network, how do we protect it? So here when we speak about cyber security, in cybersecurity, this is not like a simple configuration. It's not a simple device or something like what we have seen in our CCNA sessions and all. So here you'll be having some set of configurations, some set of activities to be done, right? So cybersecurity refers to a set of techniques or set of procedures that you follow to protect your networks, to protect your applications or your data on a network. So what exactly are you trying to protect it from? From any kind of attacks, from any sort of damage or unauthorized access. So whatever data or whatever information that's present on your network, you are trying to protect this network from unauthorized access. So only people who are supposed to access the data should be getting access to it. So someone who is not authorized or someone who is not permitted to access the data should never be able to access the data or should never be able to see what exactly is it. and whatever information or data that is present on your network should be protected from any kind of damage or theft. Right. So to do all this, to achieve this, you need to go with a set of procedure. Right. You'll have to go with a set of procedure. So all this set of activities, whatever you do, collectively is called as cyber security. So what we have seen so far in MCSE is like how do we configure a server, one single component. Then in CCNA we have seen how to configure a router and a switch. But now when it comes to cybersecurity, you have to go through a set of procedures using which you will try to protect your organization's network and the data, right? So what exactly is that procedure? What all things do we need to do? This is exactly what we are going to discuss in the cybersecurity sessions. So here, when you speak about cybersecurity, you're going to do three major activities, or you can say you'll be learning three different concepts. The first module or the first concept that we will be discussing is security risk assessment. So the first module of our cybersecurity course is security risk assessment. The second module that we will be discussing is proactive defense and countermeasures. The second module is proactive defense and countermeasures. And the third module is incident response and management. So we'll see what actually we learn in all these modules one by one. So shall we start with understanding what do we do in module 1, security risk assessment. So here when you speak about security risk assessment, so here as you see, this is where we are going to learn about hacking techniques. So is there someone here in this group who has not come across the word hacking? So guys, any one of you who have never come across the word hacking? I don't think so, right? So at one or the other point, you all have come across this particular word hacking. Maybe you read it somewhere or maybe you heard it from someone speaking, right? So let us see what actually this hacking is. So here when you speak about hacking, in terms of cybercrime or in terms of computer related crimes, hacking can be any form of unlawful computer intrusions, right? So someone trying to access your data or your resources without your permission is called as hacking. So any user who is trying to access your data, right? Data on your computer, data on your mobile phone, data on your network, anywhere, right? Without your permission, you call it as hacking. So in this hacking, there are again different ways. Hackers try to bypass your security, they try to steal your data, they try to destroy your data, or sometimes they also stop you from genuinely accessing the resources. Right. So hacker can try to steal the data, they can try to uh, damage your data, or sometimes they try to stop you from accessing the data. So as a genuine user, you yourself will not be able to access the data, right? So there are different kind of attacks that hackers are using, right? Let me show you one simple example, right? And anyway, in our further sessions we'll be discussing with different kind of hacking methods, how hackers are doing it, and we will also do them practically. But now for you to get a basic understanding of what hackers are trying to do, let me show you a simple example. So here in the chat, I will give you with a link, right? So I want you to access that particular link. So this is the link I have given you in this chat. So can someone access that link? Okay, so here we have some information. So this particular link has been accessed by someone, and it says they are accessing this from this IP 203.192.219.229 using Windows 7 operating system, right? Most probably the GPU vendor it is showing as Google, so this should be Google Chrome. Google Chrome version 105 is what they are using, right? So this particular link, what I have shared here, right? When you try to access it, it will show you a simple web page, right? So it shows you a web page. So as an end user, you're only seeing a web page, but without your knowledge, without you understanding what's happening in the background, as you can see here on the screen, hacker is able to capture all the details about your device. Right? So you do not know what is actually happening. You are just trying to access some web page, and once you access the web page, hacker is able to capture all the device details. Now see, it's telling you that on that particular computer, on the user computer, there is a Intel onboard graphic card and it has 8 GB of RAM. And the screen resolution is 1366 by 768. So all the details about that user's device have been captured here by the web page. So now hacker knows from what kind of a device end user is accessing that page. Right. So in the same way, there are different kind of attacks that we'll be discussing in our further sessions, where a hacker can capture your location, hacker can capture images from your camera, right? Or hacker can try to take control of your system or your mobile phone and all this, right? So different sort of attacks we'll be discussing, right? So is this clear, guys, so far? So I've given a simple link, a URL. Like every day we keep receiving so many messages, maybe on WhatsApp or Telegram or SMS. They say uh, there is so and so offer. You can avail the offer by clicking on the link. So we click on the link, right? We see a web page where maybe there is some offer or some deal going on, right? So for an end user, what we see on the screen is like a simple web page where there is some offer or some information being displayed. But what we do not realize is in the background, a hacker is able to capture all our details. Right? So guys, is it clear? Is everyone clear so far? Yeah. This is just one simple attack, right? But as I said, in our further sessions, when once we start discussing different kind of attacks and all, we'll be discussing more different sort of attacks and all, and I'll also discuss how actually this is being done, how you will also be able to do it as a hacker. So you'll also be doing these attacks and all, right? So I'll be sharing all the required tools and I'll show you how exactly this has to be done, right? Now, why are we learning these hacking attacks? Few moments ago, we were discussing about administrators and the responsibility of an administrator is to protect the network. And here we are speaking about hacking attacks where someone is trying to compromise our resource. So why should we learn hacking? Is it really required for an administrator to protect their network? So here when you speak about an administrator trying to protect their network, administrator need not be a hacker, but administrator should have knowledge about what hackers are capable of doing, how they do it. Right. So it's very simple. Assume an administrator is like a police. Right? Administrator is like a police. And the hacker, assume, is a thief. Now, being a police, Unless and until you understand how these thieves are planning their robberies and what could be their potential target, will you be able to protect those targets from robbery? So if you are a police, until and unless you start thinking like a thief, will you be able to identify what could be the potential target or what could be the location of their next robbery and all? Will not be possible. So as a police, if you start thinking like a thief, then there is a very good chance of you identifying what could be their next potential target, where exactly these people might go for a robbery. And then you can try to provide better security and prevent this kind of robbery from happening. Exactly in the same fashion, as an administrator, unless you know what actually a hacker is capable of, how do they launch attacks and compromise your network resources, you will not be able to provide security to the resources. Do you all agree with me? Unless you know how hackers are launching attacks and compromising your network resources, as an administrator, you will not be able to protect them, right? Because you need to know what is the loophole, how this hacker is trying to get in into my network. Only then you'll be able to fix it, right? So this is where, along with the term hacking, you'll also come across another term called ethical hacking. Now, ethical hacking is what you people do, administrators or security auditors, penetration testers. So these are all the different names given to your job profiles. Of course, a company would never advertise saying that I want to hire a hacker, because fortunately or unfortunately, the word hacker would always refers the negative side of it, right? So companies would say, I want to hire a ethical hacker, or maybe I want to hire a penetration tester, or I want to hire a security auditor, right? Now, what these people, security auditors, penetration testers do is ethical hacking. This can also be called as white hat hacking, right? So here what happens in ethical hacking, as an administrator or maybe as a person who is authorized to take care of securing the network, you will also be doing hacking activities. You'll also be doing the same hacking activities as a hacker, but you are doing this with authorization from the company. You are doing it with the authorization from the organization, or you have been permitted. So you have the required permissions to perform these attacks. And of course, you also take care of not to damage the valuable resources in the process. So you are trying to find out if there are any loopholes available on the organization's network, which can be taken as an advantage by a hacker. So a hacker tries to identify what is a weakness or what is a loophole in the network, and using that loophole try to launch an attack and compromise the resource. Now you, as an ethical hacker, you are also trying to find out what is the loophole, and then you try to fix it. So once you are fixing those loopholes, or once you are trying to fix those security weakness, will it be possible for a hacker to compromise your resource? So guys, what do you say? As a security admin, if you identify what are all the weakness or what all loopholes are present on your network and you are trying to fix them, will it be possible for a hacker to compromise your resources? No, that will not be possible, right? uh, and Mr. Junaid, as you're asking, uh, does it, do you require any kind of programming languages? It's not mandatory, but if you have some knowledge on programming, it will be helpful. It's not mandatory, but that will be an added advantage if you also have some knowledge on programming. Right. So are you guys clear with the difference between hacking and ethical hacking? Yeah. So now let us see what different kind of attacks we will be seeing in our session. So these are all like different sort of attacks that we will be discussing in our sessions, right? So we'll see what exactly is footprinting, what is scanning, how brute forcing will be done on your passwords, how hackers try to use backdoor applications, how do they create viruses, or how do they use some ransomware to compromise data, how do they crack into your wireless networks, how do they bypass your authentications, right? So how do they compromise your wireless networks, or how do they get into your mobile phones? So all these different kind of attack methods we'll be discussing in our session, right? And some of these attacks can be done from a Windows computer, right? So those will be working with the Windows machines. Some of these attacks requires a dedicated Linux operating system called Kali Linux. I'm sure most of you have come across this name, right? So we'll also be using this Kali Linux operating system to perform those attack methods, right? So there are certain things which are better from Windows. There are certain things which are better from Linux. So we'll be using a mixture, a combination of both these environments to do our lab practicals, right? And once we do all these things practically, once we learn what different kind of attacks are being done by hackers, then the next step is how do we protect our network resources? How do we ensure that a hacker would not be able to compromise our network resource? So that's what we'll be discussing in our module 2, which is proactive defense and countermeasures. Right. Uh, as you guys have already done your CCNA with the routing and switching, have you guys come across a term called firewall? So I'm sure most of you have come across this firewall, right? So according to you, what actually does this firewall do? What kind of a device is it? So a firewall controls your incoming and outgoing traffic, or in short, you can also say a firewall is a network security device. So here in our module 2, we will be learning about the firewall technology. Right. We will see what different kind of firewall technologies are available. How do we install these firewalls into our network? How do we do the configuration? Right. How do we use a firewall to protect our network? So as most of you guys are already aware, a firewall is a network security device. So in the second module, we will see how do we integrate this firewall into our network so that we can secure our network from attacks. Right. Now, when you speak about a firewall, as most of you said, this is for securing the network. That's true, but there are certain limitations to the firewall technology. So the firewall technology is actually very old, right? So firewall is not a newer generation technology. It's quite old gen technology, right? So what we do in our today's live environments, right, in real world situations, you use a firewall in combination with something called intrusion prevention system, IPS, right? So in the second module, we'll also be discussing about this IPS, or the intrusion prevention system. We will see what is this IPS, how does it function, how do we configure it to identify the attacks, right? How do we configure the IPS to identify the attacks and block those attacks, right? So we will discuss about the firewall technology. I will show you practically how do you deploy it, how do you do the configurations and all. Then we will also see what are the limitations of this firewall technology, right? So to what extent can we depend on a firewall, and where exactly a firewall fails in securing your network. So once we know where exactly this firewall would fail in securing our network, then we will also implement intrusion prevention system, or IPS. We will do the configuration of IPS. So along with firewall, we will also use IPS and see how do we identify the incoming attacks and block them. So with this combination of firewall and IPS in your today's live environments, you are able to protect your network resources. So how do we actually do that configuration? We'll be seeing in our second module. Right. And then, as we are discussing about the responsibilities of a administrator, now assume I am your employee, right? I'm working for Zoom Technologies, and you are the administrator of Zoom Technologies. Now, will you permit your employee to access, say, some social media websites or online shopping websites and all in the office hours? So while I am in office, should I be able to access social media websites or online shopping websites and all those? No, those kind of content should be restricted, right? So that's what you're going to do using content security. So in content security, you control what kind of websites end user will have access to, right? So you'll be able to define end users, let's say marketing department users will have access to so and so websites only. Developers will have access to so and so only. Management will have access to so and so only, right? So you'll be able to control the websites. You'll also be able to control what exactly is being downloaded. Now, let's say as an end user, you have permitted me to access some websites, right? Now, if I visit a website, some XYZ, and try to download some software and install it on my office computer. Now, what happens if this software, whatever I have downloaded, is a virus? Will this virus infect all the other computers in the office also? So, yes, there is a possibility. If I end up downloading and installing a virus on my computer, there is a possibility that this virus would also spread to all the other machines in the network. It will also try to damage the data on the other machines. Now, if such a kind of activity has happened, will it again be a headache for the administrator to restore all those systems, restore all the data that is lost? So if an end user downloads and installs some virus or some malware, and the data has been deleted or data has been corrupt on multiple systems, will it become another headache to the administrator to restore all those devices, to restore all the lost data and all this? What do you say? Yes, that's an unnecessary headache, right? So as an administrator, using the content security features, you will be able to control what kind of data can be downloaded by the users, right? What kind of websites can be accessed, right? What will be permitted, what will not be permitted. You'll also be able to control what kind of applications from the user device. It can be a user mobile device, or it can be a laptop or a desktop or whatever it is. So what kind of applications from the user device will be able to connect to internet, right? So you can control each and every aspect of the user's computer, right? Or maybe the user's device, using the content security. So this also you will be doing in the second module. You will also be configuring this on your second module, right? And then today, if you speak about organizations, so as I have taken an example that Zoom Technologies already has an office in Hyderabad, and now they are also trying to open another office in Dubai. Now, in the same way, let's say an organization has multiple offices, like let's say they have an office in location A and in location B, should it be possible for people working in location A to securely access the data that is present on location B, and also vice versa? People who are working on location B should be able to securely access the data on location A. That's a requirement for every organization, right? So to ensure that users of location A and B will be able to securely access the data, irrespective of whether this office A and office B are in the same place within the same building or they are across different continents, right? You go with a technology called VPN, virtual private network. So we will also discuss different type of VPN technologies. How do we configure them? How do we use those? How exactly they work in the background? So we'll be discussing all those in our module 2. And not only between different locations. Nowadays, if you see with the ongoing situations for the past 2 years or so, in most cases, what happens? Users are not going to office. User is somewhere in their home, right? So from their home network, user is trying to connect to office and start working with whatever activity they are supposed to do, right? So users are remotely connecting from their home to the office network. So should this connectivity also be secured? So if you are a user from your home, you are trying to access the resources in office. This network connectivity from your home to office, should it also be safe and secured? Yes, because you are trying to access a lot of confidential data in your office from the home. And if this connectivity is compromised, all data in your organization is also compromised. So this is also achieved using VPN. So when you say VPNs, virtual private networks, not only between different locations, you can also use a VPN to securely access the data in your office, even if you're in a home location, or say you're traveling, you are in a different location. Even in such conditions, using a VPN, you'll be able to securely connect to your office and access the data. So how exactly this VPN would function? What is the technology behind it? How do you do the configuration of these VPNs? How do you access them? We will be discussing this also in our second module. So guys, is this clear what actually we are trying to see in our second module, proactive defense and countermeasures? How do we configure the firewall and intrusion prevention system so that we will be able to protect our organization network resources? We'll be able to control who can access what resource, right? What is accessible from internet, what is not accessible from internet, right? We'll be able to control what kind of content will be accessible to the end user, what content will not be accessible to the end user, right? We will also be configuring virtual private networks or VPNs to securely access data between two different locations, or maybe between users home network to the office and all this, right? So is that clear, everyone? What exactly we are going to do in the second module? Yeah. So let me show you a simple networks. Right? So this is generally how you will have a network for a small office or a home office, generally for a small organization, right? So from internet, you'll be having your link or your internet link connected to a firewall, and this firewall is in turn connected to your switch, and from switch you can distribute your internet or your network with all your office resources. So same as what you guys have been doing in your CCNA sessions. You'll have a switch where all the devices get connected, right? And in CCNA you are using router as a gateway device, but when it comes to securing your organization network, you don't use a router, you'll be using a firewall here to protect your network and your resources. And in the same fashion, uh, based on what sort of devices are available in your organization and in the network, based on the requirements, you may also need wireless networks to be configured. Today, if you see, most of your devices, they don't even have the LAN port. Have you guys observed that? In the newer generation, even if you speak about your laptops and all, there's no LAN port. So the only way of communication is through your Wi-Fi, right? And your mobile devices, mobiles, tablets, and all this, right? All your portable devices and all, they all use Wi-Fi. So how do you let these wireless devices connect to the network? How do you control traffic from them towards internet? Right. So all this will be working with when we discuss the firewall. This is a very simple network for a small organization. But if you speak about a large organization, an enterprise network, there things would be much more complex. So as I said, you'll be having, say, a head office, you'll have a branch office, you'll have users who are remotely connecting from their home. You also have to go with hosting your servers and all in different data centers, right? So now you'll be having a firewall here. On this firewall, you have to see how to permit people working from home to securely access your office, how to securely communicate to your servers in different data centers, how to securely connect to your branch office, and at the same time, how do you permit this LAN systems or your servers to access internet or people from internet to access your resources and all, right? So all these things you will have to configure on your firewalls, right? So once you speak about a large enterprise network, right? So things would become much more complex, but we'll also be discussing this. We'll also be doing these things practically, right? So I'll be giving you with access to the firewalls. You'll be able to do all these configurations and see how do you secure your network resources. So guys, is that clear? What actually are we going to do in the second module? So in the first module, we will be discussing about how hackers are trying to do attacks. The second module, we'll be discussing about, as an administrator, how do you use various technologies to protect your network resources. And here, when you speak about an organization and their networks, you'll have different kind of devices, right? You'll have user computers, you'll be having, say, user laptops, you'll be having servers, you'll be having your network devices like, say, routers, firewalls, right? So when you have so many different kind of devices, is it also the responsibility of an administrator to keep monitoring what's happening with all these devices? So there's also the responsibility of an administrator to monitor what is happening with all these devices, right? So what's happening with each and every user computer, right? So is everything functional? Is everything working as expected? Is there something wrong? Is some application misbehaving? Is there some kind of malware traffic? So what's happening in the network has to be monitored. Now, do you think it is easy for an administrator to monitor all these resources in an organization network in real time? So you are speaking about hundreds of LAN computers, hundreds of laptops, some tens or hundreds of servers, right? Multiple network devices and all. So will it be possible for an administrator to monitor all these devices in real time? It would be very complex. So I don't say it is impossible, but would be very complex, not a easy task, right? So this is where you have a different technology which we'll be discussing in our third module. So the technology is called as SIM. Right? security information and event management. So what this SIM solution does, it collects something called log messages. So have you come across the name logs? So log is nothing but a simple information, right? So a log contains information. Now let's say, for example, if I consider a log from my web server, right? This web server is going to tell me that, let's say at 9 a.m. on 15th of November 2022, from some IP address 1.1.1.1, there is a request to this particular page, say index.html, right? So the log message, whatever I get from a web server, is going to tell me that at 9 o'clock on 15th of November 2022, from IP address 1.1.1.1, there is a request for accessing index.html. Right. So this is how these log messages will be generated by every device. Your firewall, your servers, IPS modules, your routers, your user computers, servers, your applications, they all generate log messages saying what actually happened. Right. Now, what this SIM, this security information and event management, is trying to do, collect all the log messages coming from individual resources, put all the log messages in one location, and then try to see what each and every device is trying to tell us. Try to take the log messages from your router, try to take the log messages from web server, from user computers and all. Analyze all these log messages at a time, right? Analyze all the log messages at a time, and then tell us what's happening with your network, what's happening with each and every device. Is everything functional as expected, or is there something suspicious? Right. So the SIM solution will take out the burden from administrator. So now administrator did not go to each and every computer, each and every server and all, and see what log messages are generated. Right. SIM will take all the log messages from all different resources in your network and then show you on the dashboard if everything is all right or not. Now let's say there is some malware activity on some computer. So it says on so and so computer there is a malware activity. This is happening. So as an administrator, you can directly go to that particular computer and see what's wrong. Right? What is this malware? Whether it is a virus or what is happening there. You can isolate the computer, fix it, and then bring it back to the network. Now let's say someone is trying to launch an attack on your email server. So the SIM solution says onto your email server from so and so IP address there is this kind of an attack. So as an administrator, you will be able to take further actions. What is to be done to protect your server, or what is to be done to stop this ongoing attack. So having a technology which can understand log messages from various resources on your network, analyze all the log messages in real time and give you some updates, will it be helpful to an administrator? Right. So in the third module, right, SIM is what we'll be discussing. We will see how exactly SIM would work, right? How does it show you different kind of alerts and all, right, on your dashboard, right? So that as an administrator, you'll also be able to keep a track of what's happening on your network, right? So this is the third module. So is that clear, everyone? What actually we are going to discuss on each of the three modules in our session. So in module 1, security risk assessment, we'll be learning about how hackers are launching attacks on our networks. In the second module, proactive defense and countermeasures, We'll be learning about how do we secure our network resources using various technologies. In the third module in SIM, we will see how exactly this SIM is going to help us help the administrator to identify what's happening in the network, and if there is something wrong, how exactly we are going to get a alert. So is it clear, everyone? So for all the three modules that we'll be discussing in the session, right? We'll be having a theoretical discussion. I'll explain you what is a concept, right? How actually it's going to work. And then I'll also give you a practical demonstration. I'll show you in the session how this can be done practically, whether it is an attack or the firewalls or the SIM and all. Then I'll also provide you with the required tools and all those, right? So that you will also be doing these things practically. Okay. Shah, when you say like the prerequisites for this course, you should have knowledge on MCSE and CCNA. That would be the prerequisite. And Vijay, as you say, as a ethical hacker, will you be able to do security testing on a live environment? It depends on whether are you authorized to do it or not. Yes, ethical hackers or white hat hackers, penetration testers, security auditors, as I said, they do these activities on a live network, but they should be authorized by the organization. Now, let's say, for example, I am working for Zoom Technologies. Now, if Zoom Technologies authorizes me, I'll be able to do it on their live network. If I'm doing it without the organization's authorization, organization did not permit me to do the activity, then whatever activities I'm trying to do will be treated as hacking. See, if you understand the main difference between hacking and ethical hacking, hacking is something which is done with an intention to compromise the resource. Of course, you are not taking any permission from the organization to do it. Ethical hacking is something which you are doing with the permission of the organization. Right. So the difference is, are you authorized or not? If you are authorized, whatever activities you do are called as ethical hacking. You are not authorized to do it, whatever you do will be called as hacking. Okay, so is that clear? Yes, of course. You'll also have to take some precautions. You'll be following a proper procedure and all. So that's what we'll be discussing in the session in detail. This will be a professional level course. Okay, so any other queries, guys? And here I'm also giving you a link in the chat. If you can give your details there, I'll be able to share the recording sessions. Junaid, as I said, I'll be providing you with all the required virtual missions, the tools and all, right? I'll show you how exactly you have to set up your lab environment, right? To do the practicals. So as I said, I'll also be showing you practically how you do it, right, in the session. And once you are done with it, as you also have access to the VMs and all, right? You'll be able to do it in case you are having some difficulty when you are doing the practical and all, right? So you can leave me a message, or you can just make a note of all those issues, and you can ask me, right, in the next session. Chendu, as you are asking for the certification, yes, after this course, you'll be taking an exam, right? So I'll also be discussing how do you prepare for the exam and all. So you'll be taking an exam from US Council, right? So once you clear the examination, you'll be certified as a cybersecurity professional, right? Which will be a lifetime valid certification. And regarding the programming language, it actually depends because see, you'll not be able to achieve everything with one specific programming language, right? So depending on what exactly is available on the target, so sometimes you may have to go with Python, sometimes you may have to go with Ruby, sometimes you may have to go with Perl, sometimes C, sometimes Java. So it depends depending on what actually is a target and what exactly you're trying to hit. Yeah, regarding the system requirements for your practicals, system with say a Core i5 processor and minimum of 8 GB RAM would be sufficient. Study materials and all, I'll be providing you with access to it, so you don't have to worry about the practical part or maybe the lab manuals and all that. So that I'll be giving you access, so you can access those things. Shah, when you say like how long would be there for you to prepare for the exam? So generally, after you complete your course, right, you will be receiving a examination voucher, which will be valid for 1 to 1.5 month duration. So within that 1 to 1.5 month duration, you'll have to complete your exam. Yes, exam would be online exam. You can take it from your home or your office anywhere. So along with the exam voucher, you'll be provided with the link where you can uh, log in and join, start the exam and all. Srikanth, as you say, you have i3 with 4 GB of RAM. Okay, with i3, say things would be a little bit slow, but 4 GB of RAM, you'll have to upgrade it because you'll be having a requirement to run multiple virtual machines, right? So anyway, your base operating system, which is Windows 10 or Windows 11, that also would need some RAM, and also having at least 8 GB of RAM is recommended. Exam pattern will be all multiple choice type itself. So that we'll be discussing later on when we go with the exam and all. So I'll give you with the exam, say, I'll give you with some exam questions and all, like a dump, how you can prepare and all. So we'll be discussing all that. Yes, Junaid, when you say like MCSE and CCNA, those are the prerequisites. So you should have knowledge on those two topics. Okay, so in case if someone has not noted down the link to request for the recorded session, so I've given this in the chat. So you can fill in your details there so that I'll be able to share the recorded sessions with you. Guys, when you say uh, you have done your CCNA or say MCSC, then it would be better to also do the other thing. So in case you did MCSC only, uh, say at least you can start doing CCNA parallelly along with the course, right? Or if you have only done CCNA, you can start MCSC also parallelly. Right? Because for MCSC and CCNA, you have sessions running at multiple times, so you also need to check that. And in case, say, some of you have not attended the sessions, but you have only downloaded the session recordings and all, I would say you can maybe like take out some time in the weekends, just try to go through those session recordings so you'll have an idea of the concepts. So that will be much helpful when we are discussing the attacks and the security part. Uh, okay, so any other queries, guys? So Junaid, when you say like CCNA and MCSC in 1 month, you'll be able to do it. You have to check with the timings and you can schedule it accordingly. Can be done. Okay. The exam questions and all, as I said, guys, I'll be giving you, right? See, even if I give you the exam questions right now, it doesn't make any sense because unless you first understand the concepts, you'll not be able to understand the questions and take up the correct answers, right? The course presentation and the study materials, I'll be sharing it. So once we start the session, I'll be sharing those details. Okay, so with this, I'll be ending the demo session for today, right? So we'll continue with our next session, right? We will see what is security risk assessment, right? We'll have a discussion on hacking part, different type of activities that hackers do and all, how do they launch attacks and all, right? So as I said, I'll also be sharing the required materials and the tools and all the virtual missions, right? So we'll do these things practically, and then you'll also be able to do it. So we'll have the sessions on the same timing. So if there is any change, I'll let you know. So daily we'll be having a session for 2 hours, right? So depending on the topic, maybe if it is something small, maybe we can complete it a little bit early. If it is, say, topic which is a larger one, maybe we may have to take few more minutes and all. So it depends on the topic and depends on how clear it is, right? Okay. So thank you all, and we'll meet in the next session.